of 666 podcast. This is episode 14. So we already knocked out a bunch of killer episodes, and thank you all who listened to me. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing. So without further ado, on this podcast, I have special guest Jill Sixx. She's a badass director of the new film The Stylist. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. It's streaming everywhere, and you can pick it up on Arrow's website, and pretty much any store right now is carrying it, so you should definitely check that out. So we talk a lot of horror and her film and some more stuff. It's really cool, so hope you enjoy it, and thank you. All right, Jill, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
How's things been going your way with all the craziness of the year and stuff?
It has been all over the place, but everything with the movie has been really exciting. And even though very different than how we imagined, because we didn't know a pandemic was coming, of course. So it was a little different. Like our film festival experience was a great deal of it was virtual, which back in March of last year is when we had just wrapped shooting the film. And I had that's when stuff started to get really serious about everything was shutting down everywhere all over the world. And that's when I started to realize I had to prepare myself kind of mentally and emotionally. I was like, okay, this is serious. This is probably going to affect the movie significantly and how it's going to come out. And just started to talk to my other producers about that. Cause I was like, we need to prepare ourselves for a different route than normal and just be ready for it. And we definitely did that, had a different route than normal.
Right. I think you killed it, though. Congratulations on all the success of The Stylist, man. It's awesome. I love the special edition Blu-ray that Arrow did and everything. And, the promotion's been really good for it. And I see The Stylist everywhere, trending on Twitter, Facebook and all that stuff. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, working with Arrow has been a dream come true. And honestly, to have a physical copy of the film that exists and that people are actually getting it is just there's no other word for it than it's totally surreal to me. In fact, later today I was going to go look in our local stores to see if the DVD or Blu-rays anywhere in person, and I'll probably really lose my mind if I see it somewhere. I haven't yet myself. I've seen other people take pictures of it places, but I haven't yet seen it.
Well, hopefully you'll find your movie in the store you go to today or whatever. That'd be a hell of a feeling, man. Seeing your work right there, that's got to be mind blowing.
It really is.
I think the first time I saw The Stylist was a short version that was on Shudder years ago, and I thought it was killer. I was like, wow, that's why I took notice of your work and everything. So started following you. Then 2 years later, I think you start working on the full length version of it.
Yeah, it's actually been a crazy long journey. We released the short film, and Facebook was how it reminds us of all the fucking 5 years ago this happened, 6 years ago this happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was 5 years ago of maybe yesterday or the day before that the short film made its world premiere. So it's been such a long journey from the short to the feature. But once we started to actually decided screw this, we're not waiting for someone else to finance our movie. We're going to figure out how to do it really independent style. And once we did that, it started to go really freaking fast. It was the opposite of took so long from the script to try to get it made. But once we were we're just going to make it somehow. I have no idea how we did it that fast, but it started to go crazy fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I would, I ended up getting a special edition Blu-ray anyways, but I remember for your crowdfunding stuff, my cheap ass only did the digital version of it. I was like, man, I should spend extra money and got the fucking physical edition. So but it seems your crowdfunding did really well. So
it was awesome. But to be fair to you saying that, we didn't know when we did the Kickstarter, what version of the film we'd be able to like give to backers. So we made it a really high reward, kind of an insane high reward, to be honest.
Right.
Because we thought we would have to produce them ourselves, and we knew we didn't know where we would end up as far as distribution was concerned. So we were like, who knows who we end up with and if we'll be able to. It's a harder thing to fulfill. I didn't want to promise anything that we couldn't afford to fulfill. Or I see a lot of people, you promise like all these physical things, like a whole bundle of like a DVD, a poster, a t-shirt, all this stuff for only like $25. And that can really get you into a lot of trouble as the production. If you don't, factor how expensive it is to make all of that stuff to fulfill the rewards, it's like, it's a lot of extra money. But we were able to get, we've set the reward so high for the physical edition that we were able to get the actual Arrow limited copy for those people, which I was so happy to. I was like, for how much they gave us, they definitely deserve this like nice version of it, no question. In fact, I was like, if we can't get them from Arrow, I will buy them myself and send them to each of these people. Because it's really amazing to look back that, it's like, I think almost like 400 people that ended up donating to the Kickstarter, and they're really like, it's 400 people that financed the movie. We couldn't have done it without all those people. And I was terrified to do the Kickstarter, and everyone really showed up for us. So it's freaking amazing. And we're now just sending out all the posters, and you bring up the digital copy. I'm actually going to send that out this week, since the film's coming out on VOD finally. And since it's digital now, I'm going to send all the digital copies to our Kickstarter backers. And so we're wrapping up all the rewards, which if you're doing a Kickstarter is awesome, but it is a big undertaking because it's something you work on till, the project's done and finally released.
Right. Yeah, I bet you've been busy as hell, correct?
Yeah, and I know how running these crowdfunders can be, and I'm like, try to be a stickler. I'm like, with my team, I'm like, we cannot mess this up. Like, we promised these things to these people. They gave us money to make this freaking, like, they already paid for these things. Is how, like, it's a pre-order 2 years ahead essentially. And like, that means a lot to me and all of us that made the film. So no matter how long it takes, we're going to fulfill all these damn rewards, no matter what it takes. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's fun. And like last week, we got out our poster that was made specifically for the Kickstarter, which was like an homage to the original Maniac poster, because there's obvious connections between the Stylist and Maniac. Right. But a good friend and artist named Lou Rasconi did the piece, and he's actually made art for every single short film I've done. So it's really cool to kind of bring everyone who's helped me all these years with my shorts. We finally got to make a feature together. Now I'm just ready to make another one, honestly, I hope.
Nice. Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, the Stylist, like I said, was killer. And when you say Maniac there, I think when I wrote my review, what was it, last year when I got it might have been the beginning of this year. The years are kind of like melding into one since all the pandemic shit. But I remember like mentioning that was like Maniac meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with a touch of May, I believe. I think that was the review I said. I was like, that's a hell of a three-piece there,
You've called me out and nailed all of my major inspirations. Well, what's weird is it doesn't seem possible, but like, I didn't grow up having seen Maniac. I didn't see Maniac till I was like in my later 20s. And I don't understand how, because I watched all the other things in that world around that era. And so Claire was definitely hugely inspired by May and Leatherface. But then I had seen, takes away some horror cred for me. I saw the Maniac remake first. I'm sorry, world. I was at which I love the remake also, but I saw it at a film festival, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. now I've got to go watch the original. And I really think I could go on a rant about the Maniacs in comparison, but I feel like it's such a cool difference. Like I love the original, don't like love it.
Hmm.
But it's such a cool way to remake it if you're going to like kind of just take the character and place it in a different setting, like making him an LA creepy guy versus the New York creepy guy. It's just like
Hmm.
put this like fresh spin on the exact same story. Like it was the perfect way to just barely change it, but change it like enough. I don't know. I really thought it was cool. Both of them. I love them.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, dude. Elijah Wood killed it as in the remake, man. I'm like, holy shit, never seen Elijah Wood in that kind of like character before, you know? It's like, man,
Yeah.
yeah, he fucking nailed it.
Then he kind of, I feel like, has done maybe since then, like a lot of kind of little creepy. He can be like, he can do all of it. He can be like the very sweet, wholesome guy or
Hmm.
super creepy or super weird, which I really like.
Yeah, and it all started from Frodo, pretty much. One of the
Yes,
rules, like that's the same guy.
exactly.
It's cool too because he runs his own film company, Spectre Vision. Him and Daniel Noah. So
Yeah,
that's
I would
fucking
love to
cool,
work
man.
with them somehow. They make really cool stuff.
I think
Like I
you'll
feel
work
like
good together.
one of the first things I feel like I saw from them was is it a girl who walks home alone at night?
Yes,
That
yeah.
vampire film that
Mm.
oh my by Lily Anna Amirpour. I am so in love with that movie. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Um, that movie, just one movie alone, made me like a super fan of that director.
Right. Yeah, that was a killer movie. I seen that on I think I saw it before it got on Shudder and stuff, and that was probably one of my first films to get me into like Spectre Vision. And then
Yeah.
Mandy came along and won me
Oh
over
yes.
forever.
And more recently, they did I mean, not more like a couple years ago, but or last year. The year, like you're saying, the years are all one thing. I don't even know anymore.
Right.
But Daniel Isn't Real by
Yes.
Adam Egypt Mortimer. I love that film. If you guys see like the connection to the stuff, I really like films about people, like especially kind of like anti-hero stories, like when you're on the telling the story of who would normally be the villain,
Hmm.
and then something like Daniel Isn't Real, like the psychological breakdown is like that is such a cool film. That's like that kind of stuff's right up my alley.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you. I love the atmospheric stuff, all the colors, and you know, there's deep thought
Yeah,
put in these films. Like it's not just, oh, you know, I know this is gonna happen. There's gonna be a jump scare there. No, it's none of that. It's like, you know, it makes you think, and you like, you know, you care for the characters a lot and everything. So
yeah,
I could definitely see the stylist though being a Spectre Vision film, like your colors you use and just how badass your film is in terms of like atmosphere and you know feeling and stuff. Like Spectre Vision needs to take a look at you like that. This I think it's perfect, you know. So that would be killer.
hell yeah, I'd love to. Which is funny. I'll just put this out in the universe. This isn't saying too much. I have a project right now where we're trying to get a hold of Elijah Wood, but it's not super easy, which is not shocking.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, it's funny that we're talking about this right now. Maybe I will connect with him. Who knows?
Have you tried to reach out to Daniel Noah?
I'm pretty sure that's happening with my producers on that project now. But I have seen Elijah at Fantastic Fest. He goes every year and he's
Hmm.
just hanging out. And I've been, in fact, the year that I got to see the director of Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night, her next film, he was there that year. And I remember sitting like down a row from him. I never tried to speak to him, but like I just geeked out inside, you know. it's
Right,
kind of
right.
like a, it's kind of like an unspoken thing at Fantastic Fest, which I think is cool that if there are celebrities or quasi celebrities or whatever there to just be cool and not like swarm them for photos and autographs and stuff, like just to let them be there because that's kind of what keeps them coming because then so it's really just not that vibe. but I did it one time. I did get a picture with Ethan Embry because it
Oh,
was
nice.
like I geeked out only because I'm like this little girl Jill loved like Empire Records to death. Like, so I broke the rule once. I'm probably now going to get banned from the festival. I've said this out loud.
Yeah, Ethan Embry, that's like childhood memories there. I remember seeing him in a show on Fox. It was a short-lived one, I think like 2 seasons called Freaky Links. I don't know if you remember that one.
No. Oh my gosh.
The cool thing is you can watch it on YouTube right now. They got all the seasons up on YouTube, so you can relive the 90s all over again. And it's a really good show. And they only did like maybe a season or two. It was one of his first roles. He was like maybe 18 in that, or at least looked 18.
Nice. I do love 90s sitcoms, so I might have to check it out.
Yeah, same here. I'm reliving. You remember Sliders used to come on?
I don't. I've
Oh,
literally
that's
missed
another
out on
cool
too
one.
many good ones.
That one I can't remember. Somebody big like produced that. I just can't remember who it is top of my head, but it's on a Peacock if you have that channel. Sliders. It's like a sci-fi, a little bit of
Okay.
horror mixed in there. It's really cool. So, what are like some of your biggest like celebrity sightings at these conventions and stuff like besides Ethan Embry?
The Ethan Embry one is funny. Because it's probably not a huge celebrity in many people's eyes, but well, I'm not even sure. I'm trying to think of something that's extra. Oh wait, what's the director? I've got to look up this director's name. This is another Fantastic Fest memory, but
Hmm.
I got okay, so the director of Old Boy, Chan Wook Park,
Hmm.
um, he was there, I think, with his newer film, that The Handmaiden. What the heck was that? The Handmaiden's Tale? No, just The Handmaiden,
The
which is
Handmaiden, yeah.
holy crap,
Hmm.
um, sexy ass film. But I ended up, so there was like my short film, the Stylist short was playing that year. It was 2016, and so I was like in heaven it was like the biggest festival I had ever played. And they had this a filmmaker of lunch in at someone's home, and I ended up getting like I was ended up like exploring the home. We were like a lot like being toured around. I ended up in the wine cellar with only like 10 other people, including him, and
Oh
he had
wow.
and he's like and Aunt Tim and Tim League, who owns Alamo Draft House and Fantastic Fest, and he's like showing him some wine and like asking him if we should open it, or like and letting him taste it in front of everyone. It was like this.
Whoa.
It was like he was like royalty, which is really how it felt.
Hmm.
And it was such a cool thing. And he doesn't speak English at all, so he has a translator there. But it was just such a it was really like in the presence of like something that wasn't even human, the feeling in that moment. It was just funny, but he was very like a very humble person. Like it wasn't like his attitude that made it feel that way. It was just like this moment feels like outer worldly that I would be in this room, like I don't belong in this room at this moment.
Right.
um but I don't even know. I mean, I used to go to so many horror conventions. That's what like led me to filmmaking, when I realized like there's so many people out there making movies, like real people.
Hmm.
And um back when I started that, I was like trying to get every horror icon's autograph or picture. And I feel like one of my favorite moments would probably be Candyman, because I have such a like distinct memory of watching it for the first time when I was really young.
Hmm.
It's still one of my favorite horror movies. I think it's like still so scary, so well made, so like it has a lot to say. It's smart, it's beautiful. I fucking love it. But meeting Tony Todd is like every time I see him, I've seen him a million times at conventions, but
Uh,
I see him and I'm like, it's Candyman. Like to me, like it just get chills right away. Like he is Candyman.
right. Yeah, he's always going to be Candyman to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got to one of the I mean, I used to go to way too many conventions. I'm ridiculous. But at one of them, we were all partying in someone's room, and he came up to the room, and I got a picture with him, like through in the mirror with him standing behind me, which is like ultimate horror nerd picture. So I was like, but I don't even know. Yeah, so many. Really going to conventions is what led me to all this. Is I think I thought filmmakers were just like something that were way out of reach before that.
So that's pretty much what got your kickstart into filmmaking. Then is the conventions.
Yeah, I went to Texas Frightmare weekend freaking almost 10 years ago now. Oh my God, how much time has passed, and now I'm like
Time
freaking
flies.
out. That weekend I met and a lot of like indie filmmakers, and I watched their films, and I realized that's when I like really like set in. Like these are like people make movies. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that are real people. And I started from that. I actually started a screening series where I showed movies here in Kansas City, independent horror mostly.
Is
That
that the
was
Monster Fest thing?
It's called Slaughter Movie House.
Slaughter Movie House. I'm sorry, I had a note on that. I
It's all right.
totally fucked that up in school.
Monster Fest is awesome too, though. It's a festival in Australia. But
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I started Slaughter Movie House. It was running up until the pandemic started. But through that, I had to seek out more and more films that I could like get the permission to show, and so I'd meet the filmmakers, and then got so interested in it, started going on to other people's sets and trying to figure, like just being extras on in other little things just to get on sets and learn about filmmaking. That's what led me to like eventually saying I was like I want to direct a short film, and I had no idea like what that even meant when I said it.
That's
Probably.
killer. That's a good way to start it off, like being in it like that,
Yeah, I messed around with stuff when I was like in junior high with my dad's camcorder, but never thought of filmmaking as like this is something I want to do like seriously. Like even when I was making stuff like all the time with friends when I was little, it never dawned on me that that could be something I could do like at all. Really till like almost 30 years old, and I saw these movies, I'm like, oh, people make movies. I want to do that.
That's killer. What was the like biggest inspiration for the Stylist? What was the inspiration behind that?
um The biggest thing is really just that I am a hairstylist. I've
Right.
been one forever for over 15 years now, and when the idea first came to me, I was just like I was probably just thinking of random ideas for short films. I have the note, and then the note I wrote before we even shot my first short film, so I'm kind of confused what I was doing or why I wrote this note. But
Right.
I know it was a mixture of kind of like learning the Robert Rodriguez teaching of like his book, what's it called? Rebel Without a Crew, which is like everyone should read if getting into filmmaking. But he just talks about like a lot of ways that you can like bring your production value up, like make your movie look bigger than it is, like that it has more money than it does with things that like at your disposal, like just to think of things that you have access to, whether it's like a location or a prop or a car or a person or anything, and like write your ideas around that, because that's how you'll make it look bigger than just like shooting in a which through that I learned like locations mean so much, because you can make your movie even when you have no money. If you have a cool location, it makes it look so awesome versus like just shooting in say like a living room with a white wall. Like it's to me all about like I'm all about the design and the cinematography, so I want it to look like beautiful as beautiful as we can make it, and for whatever we're shooting. But I learned early, like it's all about like the placement of these things and the background, and that makes it look bigger and fuller feeling or whatever it is. So it just kind of came from the idea of like, I'm a hairstylist. How in the hell is there not already a hairstylist serial killer movie?
Right. Yeah.
Which really at first started as like how is there not like a Dr. Giggles type of one of those movies where it's more like more silly, like just straight slasher. And, but then just kind of spun off from there. I'm like, well, I have access to all these, like, I know so many different hairstylists. I could shoot in a lot of different salons if I wanted. It just seemed like the idea just made so much sense. Like, I should do this. So I was like, I can do it as genuine to how actual hairstylists are and in every way. And it just felt like something I could do really in a really unique way and personal way.
Right, that's cool. Do you have any do you get any like strange looks from clients and all that seen the stylist?
Not too many, but what's funny is most of my clients know me pretty well. Like I've been doing their hair for a long time, but the newer ones in the last couple of years that are like slowly learning about what I do outside of doing hair, or if they even know. There's been some people like I'm in the middle of doing their hair and I'm like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I got like my first feature just came out. And then I'm like, oh, what is it about? And I'm like, oh, a hairstylist who kills people. I love to say that while they're sitting in my chair. I think I get like a sick joy out of it because I'm like, but I normally preface it like, don't be scared, but it's about, and sometimes they're the only person in the salon when I say it, but they don't realize how scared they should be of that. But some like actually in the last couple of years, I adopted a whole like clientele from someone who moved out of town, kind of a group of people who aren't necessarily horror fans per se. So that group, it's been funnier for them to get to know me and cool because I've heard a lot of them say like, I've looked up the trailer. It looks really cool. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm worried about you guys watching it. Because it's the salon that I work in that's in the movie too, to make it a little extra scary / I think cool. But
you
so
probably
like,
get some squirms in your chair now. I'm thinking a little bit of squirminess.
Yeah. I'm hoping if the movie became huge someday, the salon could be like, that's the salon from the Stylist. That would be like the ultimate dream.
Oh, that would be really cool. Yeah.
Because I'm that kind of horror geek. Like I'm a Texas Chainsaw super psycho fanatic, and I've been to the house, I've been to the gas station, and so it'd be a dream to. Of course, that's like cult status, but yeah, I'm that kind of nerd who loves to go to real locations from movies.
I've visited a few of them, like doing tours and stuff. 'Cause I've been doing band stuff for half my life. So now I'm not doing band stuff anymore. So I should have more time to be able to do conventions and shit and actually go see cool stuff. Because, when you're touring around and stuff, you can't really spend a lot of time looking at the cool horror shit, which
Yeah.
sucks. It's like in and out,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm hoping
Yeah.
since stuff is opening up so much more and hopefully a lot of conventions, I would think a lot would be happening this summer. I feel like I'm kind of out of touch with that world right now. You're making me realize I need to get back into that, especially now that my movie's out. I should be going to those and promoting the shit out of it.
Right.
There's a lot I like to go to normally in the summer. I feel like it's like summer camp at this point. Like I go back and half just go to see all the people that go to there's like that same group. I feel like core group that goes to all the Midwest conventions. Even you could go all the way to Atlanta and I'll see the same people I would see in like Indiana. It's funny. I like that about it though.
It sounds a lot like the metal community too. Like when you have like the big giant fest and stuff, like, oh, hey, I seen you at Maryland Death Fest, blah blah blah. Or you see other person at other fest. I'm like, oh, okay. So I like the tight knitness of the horror community from what I'm seeing and stuff.
Yeah, and it's totally overlaps with the metal community, no question. The horror and metal community are almost the same exact people.
Right. And it goes together so well, like, like is perfect. I've been my last interview was with Mike Hill of Tombs, who's in one of my favorite bands, Tombs. Like they're awesome. He also runs a horror podcast called Necromaniacs, and it's like we meld those two worlds together. Like we both were on the same podcast. I had him on mine, I was on his. We talk metal and horror. Like it's the perfect combination.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the way horror should be. Horror should be edgy and metal and
Yeah.
outside the lines.
Speaking of metal horror, did you see The Devil's Candy?
Yes, I actually won a Blu-ray of that off of Twitter from one of the bands that helped out on the soundtrack there, and I'm having a brain thing right now trying to think of the name. But yes, I love that movie and love the
Nice.
soundtrack.
I was wondering, that filmmaker always has great music in his movies. I mean, I'm only thinking of the two, like that and The Loved Ones. I fucking loved The Loved Ones. But
Hmm.
I have to figure that, like, especially with the music that's in Devil's Candy, that he has, or his producers or someone in that film like group has like super connections to like the music world, because it's like holy shit the amount of music that's in Devil's Candy, all the metal that's in there, and then even the music that's composed for it.
Hmm.
It's impressive. Like, I know how hard it is to find music for movies and how expensive it is. So
Right.
I'm like, how did they do that? Like, that's why only like bazillion-dollar budget, like Guardians of the Galaxy can afford like songs that you've heard of, because one of those songs costs $1 million, honestly,
Hmm.
to put in a movie. So when I hear like recognizable or like badass music in a movie, like a lot of bands and stuff, I'm like, oh man, how'd they do this?
Yeah, he's got some fucking metal friends, man. Because
Yeah.
the riff that I guess yeah, we'll call him serial killer. He kind of is a serial killer. He's the kind of
Yeah.
possessed man or whatever. That riff he plays there was actually played by one of the members of the band Sun, and Sun's a
Okay.
huge like doom band or whatever, been around for a while now. And their whole gimmick is when they show up at a show or whenever they play, it's just a wall of fucking amps. There's no vocals or anything. It's just them droning, like hitting a couple chords and just letting them drone out till your ears want to bleed.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was inspired by it because I feel like I'm completely making this up in my mind. Like theory is that like he got, well, he had to have, especially with something like that because that's like scoring the music, the film, but like to have so many different kinds of musicians involved in the film like early on in the process, I think that's just so cool and like a really unique way to approach a movie, and a movie that where that like music is so much. Every movie, of course, like music is important. There's a score in almost every movie, but a
mhm.
movie like Devil's Candy, for instance, like music is like a character almost in the movie. It's like something that would be a part of it in pre-production versus like it normally doesn't enter till post in most films. And I think it's really interesting because I'm interested in making a film about a stripper. And so I'm thinking about music a lot too, and how I might talk to musicians like as early as before I even, like while I'm writing the script, because I
Mhm.
want them to dance to actual songs versus like syncing it up later. And so it's interesting to think like, how did he do all that kind of stuff? Sorry, I'm going on a rant now. I
Oh,
do
it's
that.
cool. It's a cool rant. Metal and horror, you can't beat that. And that's a killer ass movie.
Hell yeah.
There's another one. Have you ever seen Bliss? I'm sure you've seen Bliss, right?
Yes.
Dude, that's
I
a hell of a
actually,
soundtrack.
and it's fucking awesome. I watched it a few times at festivals. And I got to watch it in freaking London on like the biggest screen I've ever seen in my life. I
Hmm.
don't even know how big this fucking screen is. But I'm close with Joe Vega, the director of that, and that team of filmmakers.
Hmm.
I really especially was so blown away by it because I feel like Bliss like really broke Joe out. Like, you can see like his voice in that film.
Hmm.
This is not to like talk down his previous films, but like that to me is like, this is you, like this is uniquely like his thing. And before, they were just kind of like cool horror films that were fun, but this felt like holy shit, like this is like gonna put you on the map, like this is your voice. and like I was blown away by it. And it's such a cool, like they shot it on film, and the whole process behind it is. I know that they're insane filmmakers, so I in a cool way.
Right.
I love it. I mean, you can see it in that movie. It's insane.
Yeah, that's one to be played loud too. If you got a good surround sound
Holy
system. Like,
crap.
I
Yeah.
think that one of the first scenes when she's in the bar, like Electric Wizard starts playing, I'm like, holy shit, this is great, and like that won me over right there. I'm like, all right, the soundtrack's amazing. The movie's got to be good, and it followed right behind it as being just as good as the damn soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because that can make or break a film in my eyes, like, or my ears actually, is the soundtrack. Like, if it's a crappy, like, doesn't really match the film well, or doesn't, I like it to be, like you said, part of the film instead of just like a background music type thing.
Yeah.
It's all about the audio
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
vision and everything. Did you, I think the second film you followed that up with, the VFW, that was just as good, in a different way, totally different films, but still had that same feel from them and stuff. Also another killer soundtrack and, look good.
Yeah. I wonder what composer he works with.
I'm not sure.
Because I know it's a lot of the same team, like it's the same cinematographer that shoots all his stuff. Although I know Joe will like operate the camera a lot of the times. He'll just take it and operate it. Um, but yeah, those guys have come along, and one of the main producers on that in that gang is Josh Ethier, who's also a like really prolific editor. He
Hmm.
edits like I don't know why I can't fucking think of one thing, but literally has like edited like half, like you've probably seen every like tons of independent horror films and bigger ones now, but and then produces with Joe on a lot of those films.
That's cool. What were some? I know Texas Chainsaw is, I think, your favorite film. I believe you said that. But what are some other like horror films back in the day, or shit even now, that inspire you, like, or some of your favorites?
Oh man. Um I definitely already talked about Candyman, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Now I'm trying to think of something random to talk about. Like, oh, here's another favorite. The Descent of more is probably now 20 years old, but it's
Hmm.
um, not old. But The Descent is one of my favorite films. I love to me that it's like I feel like there's a lot of films like this that they're already horrifying, and like almost the supernatural horror layer is
Hmm.
almost not even necessary, and it would still be like one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Right.
Just like those women getting stuck, rappelling down there and getting stuck in that cave before these creatures show up was already like this one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
I think that Blair Witch does a similar thing. Like I get so I almost get more scared in that film when the first time they come back around and they realize like they're passing the same thing,
Hmm.
and they start to lose kind of their cool, like they're like keeping their shit together is kind of all that's keeping this thing calm and not scary.
Hmm.
And once they all start to kind of lose their like clear mental state and turn on each other, I'm like being lost in the middle of nowhere and not being able to be like have that camaraderie, that would be the scariest shit ever.
Right.
um but yeah, Blair Witch is also one of my favorites. Like anyone who's like that shit's not scary, like I can still rewatch it, and then that shit is like blows me away how authentic that movie is.
Hmm.
And still those performances I don't understand, like watching it back, like these this is like some of the best acting in the world, quite honest, like honestly. It's
Right. It's so
completely
good.
real.
Did you ever get the chance to watch the sequel, Book of Shadows?
I did, and I barely remember it. I feel like I watched it once when I was young. Are you a
Yeah,
fan of it? I
I
never
actually
rewatched it.
am. Because I watched it when I was a teenager and stuff, and I had a special like VHS release for Book of Shadows. And if you watch the movie in a certain way, there's all these like hidden things throughout the movie, and you got to try to find them all to solve this like puzzle at the end. It was really crazy, and like you had to rewind here, fast forward here, maybe stop right there. It was fucking
Oh
crazy, man. I was
wow.
like, this is really unique. I've never had to do this before with the film. So I think that's what really drew me in. And the movie itself wasn't
Yeah.
bad. You know, they took a different direction, wasn't, like the first one was, where they're all like lost in the woods and doing this and that from their perspective. This is more like a film, but just having those little extras in there, I thought that was cool as shit.
Yeah, I need to check it out. I know that most people talk about how much they like it. Um, and I can't remember. Is it the same director? I think it is. I feel
I think
stupid saying
so.
that. I can't remember.
I'm always the same way. Like I've seen so many fucking movies over my time, and when I try to recall certain things back, I gotta look on IMDb and stuff to check stuff. I'm like, 'cause I can't fucking remember anymore. It's horrible. I guess the older you get, the worse your memory gets. But mine's been bad for a while now, so.
Yeah.
But what are I think I've asked you about some of the recent things. What are you watching now? Like anything cool out there that you're checking out now that people need to watch?
Man, I feel like I need to catch up on stuff, but I am noticing certain things that are coming out that I have seen that are great. Like just this week, um, a new horror film, or it might have come out last week, but a new horror film called Censor just released on VOD, and I think it's some theatrical as well in the United
Hmm.
States. Um, but it's a film that's based on a short called Nasty that I saw years ago, and it's by this female director from the UK, and like the style of short film actually played with Nasty all over the place.
Hmm.
And when I first saw her talking about Censor, I was like, oh my god, I think that's got to be a feature length version of Nasty, and um, I was so excited for it, and I got to see it at a festival, and it like blew my expectations out of the water. It's centered around the idea of, or the time period in England when they called the films that they would ban video nasties,
Yeah.
and they banned tons of stuff. Like they're very conservative. Like Texas Chainsaw was banned up until like the late '90s. Tons of stuff, and
Hmm.
so it's about kind of a woman working as she's a censor, and I don't feel like I can say anything about it without just totally telling the whole story, but it's awesome. And the short was kind of about a girl watching putting one of these videos in the TV at night when she wasn't supposed to, and like seeing her sister was like inside it, lost. And they
Hmm.
kind of like used a little bit of that in the feature, but it's so freaking awesome and just beautifully made. I like this chick's gonna blow the fuck. Like it premiered at Sundance. It's a huge film, but
Oh wow.
so it just finally came out here. I'm trying to think of what have I seen recently. Normally, I always keep track of what my first time views each year, and I'm definitely slacking in recent weeks.
Well, you've been a little busy with the film, so I can totally understand.
Um, I did see Quiet Place too, and I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, I hear that's pretty good. They're saying it's better than the first one. That's what I'm hearing. So
I don't know. I don't like to compare, but yeah.
yeah.
Um, I saw a film that might still be playing festivals called Vicious Fun. It's an indie like horror comedy. It was pretty fucking awesome. Um, oh my gosh, definitely people should watch Jacob's Wife, which is
Oh man, that's on my list. Yeah, I want to see that.
Travis Stevens' new film. It's fucking awesome. Like Barbara Crampton is incredible. It's just such a unique like take on everything that they're doing. It's fun. It's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think she's like timeless. And she may also be a vampire in real life. So I've asked her that on Twitter before, and I never got a straight answer. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think she is in fact a vampire in real life.
That'd be a cool plot twist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of anything she's in. I just been I don't know. I've been in like an '80s, early '90s binge for a while now because there's so much good shit. And I revisited Texas Chainsaw 3 and
Yeah.
also New Beginning over the weekend. I haven't watched those in a while. 3 still holds up pretty decently, even though it got cut to shit from what I'm hearing to make it like rated R instead of NC-17, but it's still not bad.
Oh man, I never knew that. I wanted to see the non-cut one.
Yes, I don't know if it even exists, but they had to
Yeah.
cut the shit out of that one just to get it out there. Like there's supposed to be all kinds of different gore scenes and all that got cut out.
Man, that's something that we probably people take for granted now that we don't realize is thanks to everything coming out on streaming. Like back in the day, you want like getting in the theater was super important. Of course, like everyone wants to get in the theater still. But
Hmm.
it was kind of like you either got in the theater or you were straight to video. Like there's no other option. Now it's like there's 1,000, streaming app channels that need exclusive content. HBO, Amazon, Netflix, like Shudder, Arrow, every single one, needs their own exclusive content. So it's like this competition. Everyone needs content.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be censored by the MPAA. It doesn't have to be rated. It doesn't have to have a R or anything. So it's like we get everything uncensored now. We get the director's cuts now. We don't have to do that anymore, especially with horror. Horror's, not as much in the theater, especially the kind of stuff that would be censored anyway.
Hmm.
Um, it's just so we don't have stuff that's as censored now, I don't think, because of everything coming out on demand. Maybe I'm making this up. I don't know.
It
But
sounds
like,
right to
for
me.
instance, like we don't have to go through the censors with the film the way we would. Like, it's not getting an official rating.
Hmm.
In fact, I don't even know if you have to anymore. Like, how does that work? I don't know. Because we've played like at festivals and we played in, but we don't have like an official theatrical, but we're playing like at random theaters. So I don't know if it's how that works or what the law is around getting a rating. Now I'm like super curious.
That's good if it's like that though. Like, I don't think horror should be cut. Like, I want to see like what the movie is meant to be.
Yeah, because it's crazy if you think like filmmaker, you finish a film and then you turn it into those people and they're like, this scene needs to be 5 seconds shorter. This needs to be 2 seconds shorter just to get that rating. Like they're literally, it's edited just for the rating, every film.
Hmm.
And it's like, that's got to be a wild and super annoying experience as the filmmaker.
Right now, everybody's spoiled now. Like you said, we have so many options, and if they're not going through the MPAA like they used to be doing, like people haven't made now. Back in the day, when we got to go to a video store and go out to the theater and stuff. This is
Yeah.
NC-17. You can't watch this one, or we had to cut this one down to this one. Like a lot of
Yeah.
rules.
I even remember watching, I feel like what opened my eyes to that is one of the behind the scenes on, I think it was the Texas Chainsaw remake, like that Jessica Biel was in one of the, like behind the scene featurettes or something. But
Hmm.
they were talking about the cuts they had to make. Like there's one scene where one dude's getting like sawed in half, and it was like a matter of like it can't be 2 more seconds longer, or like the opening, that girl that like the hitchhiker replaced scene, she like shoots herself in the head. It's like a suicide,
Hmm.
and that's even more sensitive because our fucking censors are still like controlled by like old religious, like conservative madness. So it's like
Right.
suicide is even more offensive than just straight up murder on screen,
Oh,
apparently. And
gonna
so
burn in hell.
even herself like shooting herself in the head, which they did that crazy shot where like it was like the camera was inside her head and it like pulled out. It was like as if it was the bullet almost.
Hmm.
So you could like you could see through her head.
Shit was crazy.
But like I guess they had to like cut away like to the stuff flying, like cut back and forth from that shot. They couldn't show it continuously. Like that's how specific it was. It was like you can show it, but only if you go back and forth to it. Like that would be so mind numbing as like a filmmaker or editor. Like, oh my god, what's the difference? Like
Right.
you're still showing it. So it's like where they draw those lines. I can't imagine how they decide.
Did you dig the remake of Texas Chainsaw?
I I didn't, especially the first time I saw it. I don't know what
Mhm.
I was setting myself up for. I've liked, in fact, the beginning, like the prequel that came out after that, a lot more.
Is
Um,
that's the beginning, right?
yeah,
Is the
the
pre?
one with like
Yeah.
Jordana Brewster.
Hmm.
I loved that one. I think it was because I thought it was more gritty and more. I mean, that one's gory as shit. I love that one, but I also liked how it still felt like the family was like more of an intimate, small thing. I remember in the.
Right.
It's funny how I literally make the distinction of these by talking about the lead actresses, because otherwise people get real confused. But the
Hmm.
Jessica Biel one, I feel like, like they, like at one point someone runs over to the neighbors where there's those two creepy ladies. Like it felt
Hmm.
like it was it was like too expanded. I'm like, why is there so many people involved in this? Like, what I like about the original was how it's just these few people and there's no one else around anywhere. And so I definitely enjoy it more now, but I don't know, man. I feel like, my major gripe would be that in the original Leatherface is like a cowering, like scared type of person. Like he doesn't like stand up tall and like Hulk
Right.
around like ready to kill people. He's not like I'm fucking ready. Like I don't feel like that's his vibe. Like he's not in his head like I'm gonna go fucking murder everyone right now. Like he's not like roided out macho
Right.
dude, which is how he's portrayed in those remakes. He's like
Yeah.
that's it's just a totally different. Like to me, he's like a mama's boy that's very like sensitive and doesn't know, like he's like a stunted, like a child essentially in a
Yeah.
man's body, and he's definitely totally changed in in those remakes.
Yeah. Michael Bay turned him into like a Hulk.
Yeah, it's like you just turn him into like Jason, or just a lot more like Jason to me.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I was actually one more Texas Chainsaw question. What do you think about the what was it, New Generation? You remember that one?
The one, the one with Renee Zellweger and
Yeah.
fucking McConaughey.
Yeah.
Um, I think that one's a lot of fun. Honestly, I need to rewatch that and part three. Part three, I've only seen maybe one time.
Part three's on Max right now, HBO Max. New Generation, you still got to watch that. You can rent that one like on Amazon.
I've
So,
got them all. Oh,
oh,
you don't you worry. I've got the Saws family tattooed on me. I have them all, and I've only watched probably three and four, Next Generation, once or twice. I just remember how crazy it was that like McConaughey's character has like a machine, like a robotic arm, or like a
it's a
mechanical arm, or is
leg.
it a leg?
It's a
Okay.
leg. Yeah.
It's like, there's so many weird things happening in that movie. I heard, I can't remember where, but that like that was right before Renee Zellweger did Jerry Maguire,
Hmm.
and that the studio behind Jerry Maguire like kind of pushed Chainsaw out of the spotlight because they didn't want her to be known for that.
Uh,
And I'm like, what? Because I'm like, how did I never hear about this movie with these two people who became so huge when I was younger? Um, but that is a wild one. The
yeah.
Chainsaw franchise is especially interesting to me because it's like, it didn't, it's very different than the others to me because, it wasn't like a Freddy or Jason where they put out like one every single year of the 80s. It was like they were all so close together. With
Hmm.
Chainsaw, there's like 10 years between the first three, or 10 years between the first two, another 10 years until the next one.
Right.
So it's like it didn't become as silly like as quickly. I feel like not till we got to like next gen. Well, of course, part two is a comedy, but it
Yeah.
just wasn't franchised to death right away. So I feel like it's a little more precious, even though now now we just have, instead of having like Texas Chainsaw Part 10, we have how many remakes of the first one. I don't even know.
Right.
And how many prequels. The one I will absolutely can't stand is the one that they think they call Leatherface.
Oh, that one was
That's a
horrible.
prequel
Yeah. Yeah.
of
God, it sucked.
like in the last 5 years maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one pissed me off, like honestly upset me as a Chainsaw fan. I'm like, okay, the other ones I can just be like whatever. But this is just how they portray Leatherface. Like he was the actor they cast, it just nothing made sense to me.
No,
It's
the
like
person I thought was gonna be Leatherface totally was. It was the other dude. I'm
me
like, where's this
too.
shit coming from? Like, that's not Leatherface.
Dude, I literally was like, it's the other guy, right? And then the pretty boy ends up being Leatherface. And
Yeah.
you're like, no, Leatherface definitely was never this. And not even that. Like, to me, Leatherface was never in a mental hospital. That was also like they just inserted Michael Myers' story into Leatherface's story. Um, but it was like, to me, what's scary about Chainsaw and that family is that they've always been totally secluded from society. Like that's my, of course, theory. But but it's like that's what's scary about it. To me, it's like Leatherface didn't come from some freaking mental hospital and end up with this family or something.
No.
Like he grew up with them. This is all he's ever known, and that's what makes them scary. It's like they don't even know they're scary. This is just how they live. And it's like, oh man. Oh
Yeah,
no.
that's life for them, And the new Leatherface movie, like I don't even think it was. I think they just named it Leatherface after it was done. It was some different movie to begin with. Like, all right, we're gonna call this one Leatherface and say it has something to do with Texas Chainsaw. That shit didn't have hardly anything to do with it.
I know. What did it even like? I can't even remember like how the storyline went. If he somehow near the end like connects with this like family that becomes his family. I don't even
Yeah,
remember like how it connected. Oh
yeah,
no.
and that's how they did it there. That was just horrible. And now I'm hearing, I don't know if it's in production or they're already shooting or it could be already done, but there's another Texas Chainsaw coming out. Have you heard about that one?
Yeah, isn't that dude who remade Evil Dead that's directing it?
That's what I hear. Yeah. So
That
hopefully,
part makes me feel better about it.
yeah, because I
I
enjoyed the Evil Dead remake. I thought it was awesome.
Me too. It was really awesome. Like gnarly. So at least that guy gets like making something really fucking evil and gnarly and gory. That makes me feel good about it.
Yeah, I got high. Well, I don't have high hopes, but I have hopes that it'll be decent because we need something, like that out right now. We need some more Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
always been
available
heavy.
if someone wants to hire me to make the 28th remake.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, that would kill it. Yeah, no shit. People need to get on their game and fucking yeah. You need to be helming that shit.
That actually
Well,
might be terrifying.
what? Dreading Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah, it's like the pressure I would put on myself for that. Oh no, I could do it. Fuck that, I'll do it.
But I'm sure you would do justice to that one. You're a fucking giant fan of it, so the passion would be there. You're fucking good at what you do. Like combine those two together, actually know what the fuck you're talking about with Texas Chainsaw. Should be great.
My friend Heather Buckley, she's also a producer. She produced The Ranger. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've seen the Ranger. Yeah.
She's a fucking badass, but also a chainsaw fanatic. And we've joked about slash I would do it about remaking it together and her playing Leatherface. And because she is a fucking badass
Hmm.
woman. And we've jokingly called her Heatherface for years. And but I got to visit the gas station and the bridge from part 2 with her. And
Hmm.
so kind of all started there, but yeah, every time they talk about Chainsaw, I'm like, is the new one another like remake, or now they want to call it a reimagining just to say something else?
I have no idea. I'm hearing it might
Who
be a
knows?
sequel or something. I don't know. I've only heard so many things about it. Like it's not been really thrown out there too much, so I'm not really sure on that one. long as it's
Yeah.
better than Leatherface, I'd be happy with that. Anything better than that, something, I guess.
Yes.
I think during the time of COVID and stuff, like Leatherface needs to do his thing and bring some enjoyment to everybody. Show some craziness.
Exactly.
We need it. What kind of what kind of future plans do you have for directing, and what kind of future projects you're working on or going to be working on?
Well, I'm working on a few things. I'm working on a project with a couple writers. The duo who wrote film that came out a couple years ago called Porno, the horror
Hmm.
film,
Yeah, I see
not
it.
just a
Yeah.
random porno. Um, yeah, those guys, Matt Black and Lawrence Vanicelli, they have a script that I read almost 2 years ago and fell in love with, and like almost a year after that, we started talking about it again and talking about seriously working on it together. And so, I'm attached to it as the director, and we're working on trying to put that project together. And I kind of have a few films in that state where you kind of just are hoping you're one day going to actually be able to make one of these things. That's the
Right.
hard part about like putting the projects together. But I also am excited to, now that the Stylist is released, feel like I have space in my own brain to try to write. And there's been something I've been wanting to write for a while. I kind of brought it up earlier, but this story about a stripper, and it's actually not horror at all, but it will
Hmm.
definitely be like a gritty, like darker film, but something I'm really excited about. Feel like I'm ready to like sit down and map out a schedule to get like the first draft out. I tend to like think about ideas for years before I write an actual script, or like I will
Wow.
like I will like outline something for like over and over and over again before I form it into anything that like someone else could read and it would make sense. It's hard for
Right.
me to get stuff out of my head, which is why I kind of always call myself like a director and producer who writes sometimes, because I've got writers that I work with that can, I swear, churn out like an entire first draft of a brand new idea in a month. And I'm like, what the hell is
Wow.
your brain, and how do you do that? Teach me the ways.
Right. Well, that's killer. I'm glad we got some stuff to look forward to, in the future from you.
I'm working on it. Damn it. I feel like I need to get back on the grind. The Stylist has been in my life for 2 years, like solid, working on it every single day in some way. And so it's hard to shift to like focus on something else, because that has taken like a lot of my focus, honestly,
Right.
for a long time.
Do you see yourself ever doing like a prequel or sequel to The Stylist, or?
We have definitely talked about it, and both seriously and jokingly. I actually think I do want to write something just to work on it for myself, and if an opportunity came,
Hmm.
it wasn't like my goal. It definitely was not my intention from the start, or like with the story that the feature tells right now.
Hmm.
Like for me, it's kind of like obvious what would happen next if the movie keeps going. It's not really going anywhere good, probably. And uh but I have thought about it, and I feel like I have this theory that sequels are kind of brought on by fandom, unless they're made by humongous studios that have just millions of dollars and can go ahead and produce it. But
Right.
to me, it's kind of like, I feel like if the film, I just kind of want to see the reaction to it. And I've always thought like if I did it, I would kind of almost approach it like Toby Hooper did, where I just totally switched gears and approach it in a totally different tone, because to me, like the Stylist as it is, I wouldn't want to like try to do that again, or try to like carry on this very like a serious. I can't. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but the end of the film, it's hard to believe that her story continues on after that.
Right, right. Yeah.
And without kind of just accepting like, okay, we're going to kind of a ridiculous place now, which I
Mhm.
think would be fun, but it would just have to be something we approach totally differently.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I would be interested in, and we've definitely joked about like all these spin-offs and like the Stylist 10 and just going on and on. Because where it all came from was why isn't there like a really silly over the top slasher? And so I'm like, we could still do that. That could be the sequel where she kills like 100 people on a warpath. I don't know.
Make it take like a Texas Chainsaw 2 twist or whatever, throw all that humor in there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the ideas. But who knows? I didn't think I ever would, but I love Claire so much. I would love to make another movie about her.
Right. That'd be killer. And like I said, people following your film right now is crazy. It's all over Twitter. Like, and it's all good, positive things too. So I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I knew this shit was awesome. Like, I'm glad everybody else is seeing it now, since it's coming out.
It's exciting to see.
It's like it's just out there like expanding. Like it starts off as this little thing here that you made, and now it's like all over the world right now. It's crazy, right?
Very crazy.
That's awesome. And once again, congrats on everything. Like you're killing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me on my podcast. This was great. It's nice to be able to actually talk some Texas Chainsaw with somebody who loves it. It's cool.
I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm always down to talk chainsaw.
Hell yeah. Well, Jill, you have a good rest of the week. Hopefully nothing too crazy comes up. And yeah, I will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye bye.